Hello everyone, welcome to our last lesson in this module, My Carbon Footprint. We know that you have learned so much within this module and have the tools now to calculate your carbon footprint and start to reduce and keep on measuring so that you keep your footprint down and continue reducing all the time. It is so empowering taking responsibility for everything that you do. The sun, the moon, and the stars would have disappeared long ago had they happened to be within the reach of predatory human hands. This is from Havelock Ellis, The Dance of Life, 1922. To begin Lesson 5, we will download the Eco-Analyst's Carbon Footprint Certificate. The certificate can be found on the page where you downloaded this video on our Eco Training website. Hello everyone, and welcome to editing your carbon footprint certificate. Once you've got the certificate open in Microsoft Word or something compatible, I want you to save a copy of it to your Eco-Analysts folder. If you don't have one yet, then create an Eco-Analysts folder on your C or your D or your E drive. And then put in the year and then your name. So don't put my details in, put your details in. And then click on Save. Now you've got a copy of the save to your computer. The first thing we're going to change is your prefix. So you are either a Mr. or a Mrs. or a Ms. or maybe even a doctor you can put in there. So highlight them all and delete them and just choose the one that you want. And then edit your name and your surname over there. Now the date, this is the start date for your carbon footprint. Mine was done the 1st of July 2009, and below that is the end date. So these are the periods. If you didn't do it for a year, if you did it for 6 months, you just put the right start and end period over here. Okay, mine was till the 30th of June 2010. The next thing we're going to change is the total tons of carbon dioxide equivalent that you emitted. These are basically the results from the carbon footprint calculator. Mine was 10.52. The next thing we're going to change is the address. So I'm going to put in my address. My address was 14 4th Avenue in Dennerwood. Yeah, you can put your own address. You can also put a postal address. You can add other details. You can put your email address in there. You can put your mobile number in there if you want to. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is to change the picture. Here's my sample picture. I want you to click on it once and then push the delete button. Then open up Windows Explorer or any of the other programs that you use and locate a picture that you want to insert. Then right-click on the picture and select Copy. Then minimize this window and go back to the other Word window. Now, just next to the cursor, I want you to click with your left button once. Then right-click and say Paste. There we go. Here's the image. Now you can see the image is very big. Go all the way down to the bottom corner till it becomes a double arrow, and then you can drag up and you can make it bigger and you can make it smaller. So in other words, if yours was a bit smaller, then you can make yours a little bit bigger. So I'm going to play around here until mine is the right size. So a little bit smaller still. See, we're missing all the information at the bottom here, so I know it has to go even smaller. Okay, there we go. The information at the bottom has appeared, but now it's a bit too small. Make it a bit bigger, still a little bit too small. Make it, try one more click bigger. There we go, that looks fine. When you're finished, you can see the border on the left here and the border on the right should be the same dimensions, should be the same size. Great, that's finished. And the last thing that we're going to do now is we're going to save the document again. So we click on Save and we make sure that the name is correct and we press Save. And that is how you do it. Now you can print to a PDF and email to your friends if you want. I would like you to pause the video, find the certificate and then open it. When you have completed this, you can continue with this training lesson. For me to reduce my carbon footprint to the extent that I did, I'm going to share with you in detail the easy and simple steps I took to make these changes. I replaced all light bulbs with energy efficient ones. I made a point of only switching on the lights as and when I needed to. I replaced the security lights with motion detection fittings. I switched to solar lighting in the garden. I started using candles more and more. I reduced my geyser temperature to 47 degrees, hot enough for a shower. I installed a geyser timer, which started my geyser at 6:30 in the morning until 7:30 in the morning. And when my daily ration of hot water was over, I boiled a kettle if I needed hot water. I was able to install a geyser blanket and insulated the pipes myself. I changed the shower head to a low-flow shower head, thereby using less hot water. This therefore required less electricity to get the full geyser back up to temperature the next morning. I made sure that I showered for shorter periods of time and bathed only occasionally when I really needed a hot bath, probably 5 or 6 times for the whole year. My partner and I showered together or right after each other to save water and electricity. If we bathed, we usually did that together. I reduced the hours that my pool pump was on from 12 to 5. I almost never left the TV on standby, nor the phone chargers plugged in when I wasn't using them. I made sure that only boiled enough water in the kettle for what I needed. I sealed all air leaks and gaps in my home. I installed a fireplace in the lounge and a barbecue in the social area. I burnt alien vegetation like black wattle in my fireplace to keep warm in winter and to cook all year round. On cold winter's days and nights, we wore warm clothing in the house to save on the heating bill. We decided to switch to eating in a greener way. We eat far more raw foods now, which requires a lot less electricity every day when preparing our meals. For example, the stove, microwave, the oven, fridge, etc. I started a worm farm in my garden to avoid my waste turning to methane in a landfill somewhere nearby. I turned the stove off a few minutes before my food was ready, as the plate stayed hot and I was still able to cook my food to completion. I only put my electric blanket on for 30 minutes before we got into bed in the winter, and then turned it off when we got in. We slept with a blanket over the bedding to keep warm in winter. I hardly ever used a tumble dryer machine. I instead only washed clothes and the bedding when the weather was good for drying on the line outside, in the sun. I only used the dishwasher when we had guests and the machine was full. I reset my fridge temperature as it was set too high. I placed my fridge in a cool area. I made sure that I defrosted my fridge 4 times in a year. This kept it energy efficient. I defrosted my food more economically by taking food out the day before and putting it in the fridge. I bought clothes that did not require ironing. I used my laptop computer much more than my energy-sapping desktop computer. And lastly, I bought a much more energy-efficient television. All these steps are easy, they're cost-effective, and will create a lifestyle that is simpler and embraces a better quality of life. And with each of these steps, I knew that I was making a difference, not only to my pocket by reducing my energy requirements, but also that I was lowering my carbon footprint in ways that raised my awareness and impacted on my environment. Now that I have shared my list with you, I would like you to take some time to consider the steps you can take to reduce your carbon footprint. Remember to always look for the low-hanging fruit, as it's the easy and simple changes that make the biggest differences to reducing your footprint. What is low-hanging fruit, you might ask? It's the easy pickings, the things that are easy to do to reduce your footprint. For example, the geyser, the lights, the habits like not leaving the television on standby, and my laundry examples. And most of all, it's about shifting your awareness and changing your old habits. Let's take a look at the possible low-hanging fruit, which is obvious and relatively simple to implement these changes. Investigate and then switch to a solar-powered hot water system. Switch from electric stove to a gas or a wood stove and oven. Insulate your home if your winters are cold and your summers get hot. Get a company to install eco-friendly insulation in your ceiling. Buy energy-efficient appliances when yours need replacing. Do it yourself or get an electrician to measure all your heavy usage appliances in and around your home. Then look at replacing them with items that are more energy efficient, using them less, or better still, doing away with them totally. If you are renting, you can ask the landlord to replace all your lights and appliances, like your geyser, with ones that use less electricity. Or you could move to a house that is more energy efficient, and that will save you money and reduce your footprint over time. Create a schedule for your household shower and bath times so that your geyser works less. Try and only cook one meal per day for the whole family and eat more raw foods. It will add health and vitality to your lives. Our Eating Green course will be designed to advise and inform all about eating green and creating more health and vitality within your body and in your life. An iron uses as much as 10 100-watt bulbs. Use a thermostatically controlled iron and iron large batches at a time. Even better, buy more clothes that don't need ironing. It's actually amazing how easy and simple making these changes really are. And they're going to make you feel so good because of the shifts you are making in your own life and that of your environment. We often hear about offsetting our carbon footprint, and that if we plant trees, we offset our carbon emissions, and that we can subscribe to various projects that will do the task for us. But what are offsets and how do they work? If you approached an accredited organization and asked them to plant a tree to offset your carbon emissions, they will inform you of which trees they plant and how much carbon each type of tree is expected to soak up in its lifetime. If, say, the tree absorbs 500 kilograms over its expected lifetime of 100 years, and I would like to offset my footprint for 2010 by instructing them to plant these types of trees, I would need to plant 20. That is, my carbon footprint is 10 tons of CO2, so 10,000 kilograms divided by 500 kilograms is 20. I would then be carbon neutral for the year 1 July 2009 to 30 June 2010. If I planted an extra tree, I would be carbon negative, which means for that period my entire activities, including the planting of the trees, resulted in less greenhouse gases being emitted than which I absorbed. Let us quickly discuss planting trees as a method to offset your carbon footprint. Firstly, the tree that you plant needs to grow for at least 100 years. If you are planning to plant your trees in South Africa or Australia, where they predict the worst drought is going to be as climate change gets worse, then your tree stands a good chance that they won't reach 100 years due to the following reasons. Firstly, drought. Your tree will die from lack of water. Secondly, fire. Your tree will burn due to lack of water and then violent windstorms. And thirdly, floods. Due to the drought and extreme weather conditions climate change will bring to the region, there is a strong possibility of floods in the future. 4, disease could strike the whole plantation and they will have to be burnt to stop the infestation moving to nearby plantations. And lastly, deforestation. If the land your trees are growing on gets earmarked for housing or farmland, the developer will cut your trees down. These are all frightening and yet realistic projections. Because of this, we at Eco-Analysts are currently looking into ways in which to offset my and that of Eco-Analysts' complete ecological footprint. And we'll let you know in our Module 10, Carbon Footprint for Organizations, what we have decided on which route to follow. We have a few choices, but the one I'm sure we will decide on is to purchase CER certificates from emission reduction projects in Africa. Remember, measure, reduce, measure again, and offset, and become carbon neutral. So this brings us to the question of how we can offset our emissions for the year. We have an idea that we at EcoAnalysts would like to share with you, our valued student. We at EcoAnalysts make an educated guess as to what our carbon footprint for the forthcoming year will be. We then plant our trees at the beginning of the year so that we are always in a carbon negative state. How about you do the same? Now that you have done the course and know your current CF, you now know how much you need to offset. You should now be able to make a calculated guess as to what you estimate your footprint will be like for next year, taking into consideration that you should be able to reduce by about 20% if you implement some of our energy saving techniques. We feel 100 years is too long to offset your emissions, and that will not help us prevent climate change. You need to always be in a state of carbon neutrality, which means you need to offset before you even emit. I suggest you do the following. Help 2 friends, family members or workmates to calculate their past carbon footprint. Then help them reduce by implementing all you have learned from our training courses. Now calculate how much you expect them to save in emissions and use these savings to become carbon negative. Please remember that you have to offset your emissions yearly. So by helping someone reduce, offsets your emissions for that year only. The following year, you will need to help someone else reduce, as the first person or persons might have by now figured it out for themselves as how to reduce and will implement the changes and help their friends and family members and work colleagues. We trust that you will follow our method of thinking. Whatever method you choose to use to offset, please make sure it is not in any way a form of greenwashing. Let's now practice by doing the CF of one of your family members or a friend. Step 1 is collecting the data you need to carry out the carbon footprint calculation. In step 2, you enter the data into the carbon footprint calculator on our website. For step 3, once you have the amount of carbon equivalent tons being used, suggest to them the various ways to reduce this amount so that they can see very clearly the changes needed to make the necessary reductions. And lastly, in step 4, suggest to them methods to offset the balance. In our next training course, My Eco Footprint, you will learn the difference between carbon and ecological footprinting. You'll learn about the data that you will need to gather in order to carry out this calculation and how important doing the eco footprint calculation is. You will then be able to reduce considerably and remeasure at the end of the year with effective results. And you will be using far less electricity, which means that your electricity supplier will burn less coal. This module is assignment based, and your actions and putting various procedures in place will shift your behavior, and you will contribute to the reduction in deforestation and the huge carbon and eco footprint of manufacturing processes. In our advanced courses, we will offer 3 modules that will open up vast knowledge and career opportunities for you as we learn about carbon footprint calculations for organizations, learn how to trade carbon credits, and the techniques and strategies of adaptation and mitigation. There is a huge amount to learn and knowledge to be gained whilst becoming completely sustainable and reducing your footprint. This is only the beginning of a very exciting journey, and we look forward to working with you on our next module, My Eco Footprint, and wish you much success as you implement the valuable information that you have learned from this module into practice and change your life and that of others. And now finally, from the well-known Dr. Seuss from the Lorax, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. All the best and goodbye for now.